Okay, I'm going live. Basically, I just got back from the tent city we started in Victoria Park, and on my way walking back, I ran into some people that make donations, and I asked if they would donate food to the tent city. They said the tent city is not an encampment, it's a political movement, and as such, it is illegitimate. Now, first of all, let's look at what the word illegitimate means. The word illegitimate means comes from the patriarchy. It comes from the idea of legitimacy. You are legitimate if you are the son of a property owner, and that you can prove that you are the son of a property owner. And illegitimate means someone who is not the son of a property owner. So that excludes women and workers and poor people. And on that basis, I'm proud to be illegitimate. I am outside of the system. I live outside of their laws. The tent city is basically there because people need a place to sleep. It is a political movement in the sense that we took over so called Victoria Park. Our demands are quite simple: stop bulldozing people's encampments and where people sleep, stop beating up like and destroying poor people, taking poor people's stuff, stop criminalizing poor people by arresting them for small quantities of drugs that they use for personal use, and like those basic sort of things that people need, have a right to housing. And the reality is people do need housing. In Kitchener we have less than 2% vacancy rate. More and more people are ending up on the street. The reality of the situation is that during COVID, lots of small businesses and lots of like housing was destroyed to make room for condos for the rich, condos for people from Toronto who wouldn't mind commuting a little and living in such a nice place. And the rest of us are displaced. This movement is called social cleansing, and it is something that we are fighting against. We are in Victoria Park because, A, after residential schools, to have a park named after Queen Victoria, one of the monarchs responsible for that genocide, and one of the monarchs responsible for the genocide of Irish people, is criminal. B, to have native people whose lands were on 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. That was the agreement, 10 kilometers on each side of the Grand River. To have Indigenous people sleeping in the streets while we have this huge statue of Queen Victoria and like this huge park named after Queen Victoria is a spit in the face of like those people. And three, colonialism is part of the problem. Capitalism is part of the problem. The problem is that there are people that are pushing homeowners out. And property tax has doubled. We've had the COVID virus. And now we're having people going door to door in poor neighborhoods like the East End trying to buy people's home. We will pay you cash. And so then you have people who are in debt to the government for income tax and property tax who are forced to sell their home for nothing because they're put in that situation. The difference between a homeless person and a worker is more or less a check. In fact, we're having more and more workers living in so called encampments and tent cities. The reality of the situation is to say we are illegitimate is a bunch of bullshit. The term illegitimacy is a bunch of bullshit. We are poor people. We are humans. We demand basic rights by virtue of being human. And we're not going to let a couple idiots who don't know what side they're on call us illegitimate. They're the ones that are illegitimate, who are sitting back while the world is burning, doing nothing. They're the good Germans who sat by Auschwitz and Dachau watching the smoke rise out of the chimney, doing nothing. And I do compare the Nazi Holocaust to the Holocaust that is happening here of indigenous people. It's horrible. More than 100,000 indigenous, 100 million indigenous people have been killed. to create this great, beautiful country. And so, yeah, I'm not going to be a good German sitting outside of Dachau, pretend nothing is happening. People are dying. There's an opioid crisis. There is a homeless epidemic. There is poverty. People have to choose to pay between rent and food. And that's why we're there. We're going to stay there because people need us to be there. When we get pushed out, we'll go somewhere else and we'll find somewhere else because people need a place to stay. It's part of being human. You need a place to call your own. So, yeah, these are my thoughts. We're going to have a much longer discussion on Tent City with some of the people at Tent City later. Thank you for listening and please subscribe.